we have somebody that we are really excited about, Brett Hudson, that has done tremendous job for the community. Now I'm going to give the time to Brett.
Thank you very much. It's pretty high claim there for a guy that's been on the job 90 days. You know, I can almost find my way around the community. I know to, a little more than 90, I know to pull out my card when I come through the gate. I don't get as lost as I used to. Anyway, I have thoroughly enjoyed not only working in this community and serving the residents, but just the way I've been received has been overwhelming. Maybe you've heard me say this before. The last couple of jobs I was at, I didn't get received so well, you know, and most don't. A lot of gadflies in city government, and you show up there and you sit at the dais, and they come up one after the other. And I remember my very first day on the job, a lady came up and said, "You're the worst city manager we've ever had." But you got to be kidding! I just got here. I didn't even know what chair to sit in. Didn't experience any of that. It was all wonderful. Everybody that I've encountered has just been, even those who have had issues, that have had poor customer service, that have not been able to get their problems solved as easily as they should have been very gracious when they've come in to see me. And I've met with some 300 or 400 residents now who've taken the opportunity to come and see me, or I've met them at their manors to talk about issues, several every day since I've been here, and a few on weekends as well. Anyway, so how many of you have had problems, say, calling property services, and it's been a little slow, and not very many, it's been pretty good. Oh, good, everybody's happy. My work's done. Where's that bonus check? Anyway, I fixed it quick. It's been a big issue for us. Had a lot of trouble. The volume of work here is very substantial. I would say on the order of 4 times the number of calls that I received in Sacramento County with 1.7 million residents. So there is a lot going on. The question I have that I'm about ready to answer is that really the volume we have, or is that us making you call 10 times to get one thing fixed? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to know it pretty quick because we've installed some intelligent software into our phone system to analyze all this call data. We also had a problem because we weren't answering all the calls every day, and so they would get kicked over. And so to the point that when I arrived here, we were answering about 60% of the calls a day, and we had about 5,000 in backlog. And so we worked weekends for a while, and the backlog has been cleared up. And last week we answered 98% of the calls.
Wow. Nice.
So you might ask, wow, how'd you do that? Well, there's a number of ways. Number one, we hired some people who are really good at answering phone calls, and we trained them really well. And also we trained them in multiple programs. So they didn't just do property services or just community access or just manor alterations, but the broad range. And so if you have something coming in and you don't wait to talk to the person who deals with that, whoever's got the phone is going to try to help you. Now there's a risk to that. They don't know it probably as well as the old person did, so they might mess you up. But at least you're talking to somebody. Let's give love a chance, you know? So that's part of it. The other part is our technology has not been addressed very well over the last several years. We were several versions behind in virtually every software package we had. We're dealing with servers that are 15, 20 years old. And so Chuck, have anybody run into Chuck yet? Chuck is a little bit of a madman. And he's been going through and upgrading all this software, all the servers, just cleaning it up. And so now a call that would take 9 minutes before, because you're waiting for these screens to turn and you're entering data and stuff, takes about 2.5 minutes now. And so we've really sped that up. So I think you're going to see outstanding customer service moving forward. It's just going to get better and better as we improve systems, as we deploy new customer relationship management software, do a number of things to make your life easier. One of those things is going to be our new gate access program. So I don't know if you guys probably know how this works, but about 30,000 calls a month go to the gates for you to call and have your guests come through. That's a lot of calls. And the folks who are supposed to be protecting your security at the gates are the ones who have to answer those calls. And so you can see answering 30,000 calls, watching 20,000 cars come through a month could be a little tricky. Could be a bit tricky. And so the new system is going to take that responsibility away from the gates. That'll go to a call center, and folks will be there 24/7 to take those requests and answer those calls. As a matter of fact, answer any calls you have about anything. And so that's going to be a big, that's not right away, but down the road. And so that will take the pressure off the gates so they can actually perform some of the safety and security functions that they're supposed to be doing instead of just making these access requests. So that's a big enhancement. Any golfers out there?
What was that?
Today may be the most significant day in the history of Laguna Woods Village. The very first online tee reservation was made today. Congratulations. We've arrived. So we've had this ActiveNet tee time software for many years. We haven't really put it in play, and Chuck came on board and said, we're going to use this doggone thing. We bought it. And so he's been working with the staff over there to modernize our golf operations, which are incredibly inefficient. And so some people are going to love that. Some will hate it. And so we'll just have to see how that goes. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be much more efficient. It's going to be much fairer as to who plays when and where. It's going to be a big enhancement, and we're going to have a lot of data now that we can utilize to analyze our golf operation, how to optimize the performance over there. And we're not going to be generating a bunch of paper that has to be scanned by somebody so we can save it, which is pretty much how we do everything. We have really a completely paper operation. And everything that we generate, and it is loads, has to be scanned and archived. It is a huge, huge waste of community resources, and I pledge to you that we will eliminate that waste. We will get rid of it. We will become efficient. We will put downward pressure on your assessments. That's a nice little twist, isn't there? Downward pressure. Yes. It's going to go down, a little pressure, not let it go up too much. So that's a huge issue for us. Customer service, becoming more efficient. We probably have 50 or more efficiency projects going on right now. Things we're looking at, processes. Chuck Holland, our IT director, gave a little presentation at GRF last month about, what was he talking about? Anyway, it was about the resales operation and how many steps it took to close a sale here just by staff and the boards. Something on the order of 340 steps by staff and the boards. Doesn't count escrow or title or the broker. And it was something like 10 hours or 9 hours of staff time. And then it generated about 400 pieces of paper that had to be scanned and archived. And so we're looking at process. There are many such processes. We're looking at all of them to try to optimize our use of resources, cut the steps out, do things paperless, and become much more efficient for you and have to be more responsive. So that's a big deal. Next thing, so I've talked about customer service, efficiency. Let's talk about transparency. You hear a lot of people say, gee whiz, we can never get the information that we need about issues that are happening in the community. Either we get the information after the decision's been made, or we can't get it at all. And so I've been tasked by the boards to develop, along with a number of board members, systems that will get information out to you in a very timely way. So we're doing a number of things. And maybe some of you maybe got the e-blast we sent out the other day on the burglaries. Anybody get that? I think that's, you can expect that kind of thing. Anytime something notable comes out, we will reach out to you. We have a monthly newsletter that is pretty elaborate that we're working on developing, and it's just going to improve over time. And then we're in the process of developing a new website that will have a resident portal. And in that portal, you'll be able to go on, log on using your I guess it's the resident number, member number. What do we call that? ID number, okay. And you'll be able to access all of our financial records, including current financial. All the board agendas and minutes, all our documents and contracts, everything will be available on there. And then that's not too far off. A little further down the road, you'll be able to pay your assessment, make a tea time, do some community access for guests, a number of things online if you choose. If you want to come down and see us and wait in a line and be greeted by some very cheery, well-dressed folks, we're glad to do that too. But you will have an option to use all of our services and pay for them or not online in the convenience of your own home or on the golf course with your mobile device if you so choose. So that's down the road a little bit, but I think that's the kind of transparency we want to bring to the community. What we do, you can see, it's available to you no matter what. Right, wrong, we make mistakes, we have to fess up to them, tell you about them, and have you forgive us and tell us to move on. That's the way we're going to do business. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was accountability, and that's kind of what I touched on there, being responsible. We're not going to do everything right. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to forget to tell you about something really important that we're working on, and until you're getting ready to do something, you'll say, hey, wait a minute, you didn't touch all the bases, and we'll have to own that and say we're sorry and start back a few steps. We make mistakes, we'll take responsibility. Not only our responsibility to you, but you to each other. This is a community. You know, you have to be accountable to your neighbor. He's accountable to you. I have to be accountable to my employees who look to me for leadership, for mentorship. I have to provide that. We're all in this together. We're all accountable to each other on how this community functions, how well it works together, how prosperous we are. Very important. So those are the 4 pillars upon which I'm trying to build the management of VMSI and what I'm trying to instill in our employees. This Thursday we have a customer service seminar that we're putting on for our staff, and we'll see. I think it's going to be pretty good. And I think the essence of it is getting to yes. Because I have noticed that when I ask people to do things sometimes, that no comes out really quick. You know? And so I don't know, has anybody seen the movie Yes Man? I'm making all the staff watch it. So you can say yes. Occasionally, you got to say yes. And so, you know, residents oftentimes come forward with issues that maybe in the gray area there, and you can probably deny it if you want. But why? Why not just take care of the problem, send a happy customer away to enjoy their time here? Nothing drives me nuttier than having a resident incredibly angry who should be here in paradise, in South Orange County for no less, angry as heck in my office because of some relatively minor thing that somebody could have solved just by saying yes and just helping, letting it go. I had a big rules violation today in Third. I'm probably gonna I shouldn't talk about this. So a lady calls me up and she says, you know, I've had my carpet cleaners here 4 times this week and they couldn't find a place to park any of them. I don't think I'm ever going to get my carpets cleaned. So I said, well, you know what? Here, we'll make a deal. How long does it take? She said, well, about 45 minutes. I said, okay. You're getting a one-time only free pass to break the friggin' rule. And know, but if you're there over an hour, you're in trouble. And so I think it's going to work out. But on occasion, it seemed like enough's enough. And sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So what are the really huge issues going on right now that we're dealing with? Well, obviously the gate access. You've seen the huge crime story last week. You may have heard that we're running some gate checkpoints to see who's in properly and who's in improperly. And we're finding a number of people are in our community without the proper credentials. And we are rightfully escorting them out. And so I think when you look at that, we've done, I think, 4 of these checkpoints now. And somewhere between 15 and 30%, depending on the location, are entering our community illegally. And so obviously the gate access project is going to stop that. That just won't happen anymore. You won't be able to get in, they'll be turned around right at the gate. So that's a big issue. We're doing a number of things with our clubhouses and the clubhouse and community center in terms of room reservations and policies. Where the CAC is having a number of discussions on that with community members, and we have big plans for Clubhouse 3 in terms of turning that into. We recently changed the name to the Laguna Woods Village Performing Arts Center. We're right here. Right now, it's going to get a little facelift down the road. I think that's going to be very, very popular, and hopefully we'll have some wonderful entertainment for you again next year, maybe even better than we've had in the past. So that's a big deal that we're working on. Number of improvements around the community, projects that are very important. This afternoon we spent a lot of time on transit service. And what are we going to do about the empty buses that are driving around our community? And so we provided a very substantial amount of data to the Mobility Committee that demonstrates the need for drastic change. And so they're weighing that information. If anybody would like that information, send me an email and I'll send it to you. But it's a very robust set of data that really lays out that we have a pretty inefficient system. There's a lot we can do to make it better, and we'll be exploring that down the road. And then lastly, I think as Lindy mentioned, we're doing some budget stuff, and that will be going on for the next several months. And I anticipate a very transparent and open process. Certainly invite any input that anyone care to offer. And there'll be many, many meetings that will be well publicized for your attendance. So with that, that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing. And I would be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
We're supposed to have financial transparency. Since all of our employees work for us, do the villagers have a right to know how much the employees earn? No. I didn't write this question. I'm only reading.
That's a really interesting question. And, I come from mostly a public sector background where everyone, residents, other employees, whether they work for you or you work for them, they know what each other makes. And so that's the culture I'm used to. And so I'm certainly not offended by that. But in talking with many of my employees, they find that kind of offensive as private sector folks. They're not really comfortable with that. And so I would say, yes, there's probably a way where classification salary can be released to residents. For example, you might want to know, what does a landscaper 1 or 2 make? I think that's probably a legitimate sort of question to ask and to answer. And so I think those kinds of salary ranges could be made public so residents get a sense of where things are at. And then if on their own research they want to see if that's reasonable in the market, they can do that as well.
How can we help you and Lori? Because a lot of you who were here last month met Lori Moss, and Lori does a really great job. And she's our community manager, and she's all over the place. How can we, and I don't only mean the board members, I mean we, the community, help you to get more things accomplished and do an even better job?
Are you sure you want more things accomplished? That's the question. Well, You know, I'm very happy. I've hired a number of really top-notch employees. I have 2 more starting next month. Commander Moy is our new security chief, who's starting June 6th. He basically runs everything that's not jail and courts for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. So we're getting a very high-ranking, skilled executive public safety manager in here that's going to really straighten out our security issues, and I'm very proud. And I've also can't tell the name, but I'm also starting next month is a very accomplished civil engineer who's going to lead our general services agency, and I add that to 3 or 4 other top-notch candidates at leadership positions that have recently been hired as well. So I'm very pleased with the executive team, and the employees are responding very well to their leadership, and I'm very honored by that. And leadership of the VMS board. It's really been good. For residents, how you can help us the best is to let us know when something is wrong. We cannot, there are not enough of us to be on every corner all the time to see everything that's going on, whether it's a public safety issue, this car or that person doesn't belong, or it's a cracked sidewalk or a dead plant, or it doesn't really matter. If you see things in your neighborhood that you don't like and you want us to fix, if you tell me about it, I will fix it. Not personally, of course, but I will ensure that that message is conveyed to the people who can take care of it. I think that is the best thing that residents can do. Obviously, you can run for a board, particularly if you have all the wonderful characteristics that Bert just laid out. I think that is a very important way to serve the community. I think just attending meetings and sharing your opinions. You know, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm very irreverent at times, and I apologize in advance. But we tend to, and I would take this back to my public sector experience as well, we tend to only hear from a very fringe element in the community. It's the same folks on every issue who are basically negative but don't really offer practical solutions. And so if a few of you normal folks would show up at a meeting now and then and say, hey, you did a really good job on this, but we could use your help on this other thing over here, that would be helpful. All those things would be very, very helpful. And then I think for boards, I think probably the best thing we can do is for the boards to embrace each other, and then to embrace the staff, and let's all do this together. I promise you it's going to get so much better than you had ever imagined. You are going to really enjoy your community more than ever. It's quite enjoyable now. It's going to be even more enjoyable in the future, particularly if you're not worried all the time about addressing petty issues that should just be handled the same day. And so I think you're really going to see a big improvement.
Actually, both Lori and Zora are trying to start a new program where you don't even have to let you know. We can just take a picture of something, and those of you who use your phones, and just send it in and tell them where it is, and they'll fix it. So that's how they're gonna get. So as soon as we get that firmed up, it'll be published in the newsletter, but they're really working on it. Is that a surprise?
No.
Oh.
No, we did that in Riverside and Sacramento, and it generated quite a good level of customer service. So one other thing we're adding, I think residents are going to enjoy is, after we come out to your manor and provide a service, we're going to ask you to go online and fill out a little questionnaire for us and let us know how was the service, was the employee dressed properly, was it respectful of your property, put things back the way they were when the service technician arrived. Just get a sense of how you feel, so we can incorporate the kinds of comments you make, not only in our processes, but also in our training program as well. And so that would be very helpful as well.
It's a really long question, so I'm not going to read the whole question because it's that long. But the person said, we'd like to understand why getting permits is such a problem. I can read all of the things, but I know, because that is one of the few things that you didn't address when you were addressing all the things
Yeah,
you're doing.
I really didn't.
But they could say they've gone 15 times to City Hall. Oh, I'm sorry, the mayor's here. But the thing is you just do have some improvements you were going to make it.
I'm very much, I've told this story before, and if you've heard it, I apologize, but an employee came in a while back and asked me what my vision was for Manor Investments. And I told him it would be great if our staff facilitated the permit process with the city, helped their contractors get appropriate access. We lowered the cost to get permits. Wouldn't that be wonderful? We encourage investment so the whole boat can rise with the tide. The guy left my office and resigned 5 minutes later. He didn't think that was a good thing for us.
I think he's still there.
Is he still there? He's leaving. He resigned. No, he's still there. Anyway, the vision is that that's how we operate. We're there to facilitate and encourage investment in the community, not to regulate it and stymie it and make it difficult for you and your contractors to have the dream home you've always wanted. And so I'm going to do everything, and much like the resale process, the manor alteration process has an awful lot of steps in it too, way too many, it's too paper intensive. We can streamline that, cut the costs, encourage investment, be an ombudsman with the city as we work in partnership for investment in the community. It just makes a lot of sense, and I'm committed to do that. Matter of fact, we were contemplating a name change, but I hadn't really got it approved, and I'm not even sure who would approve it, but we thought something like Manor Investment or something would be a nice way, to symbolize how we feel about residents improving their manners. So we'll talk, I'm sure, about that another time.
This question is about landscape issues.
Do you want me to just take it off?
Probably
Yes,
could.
we have them.
No, I mean, there's been a lot of concern from residents that we're not watering. The drought isn't as much of a drought anymore. There's so many bald spots. We have new ideas for grass. Somebody said we should put in fake grass, but if you put in fake grass, somebody said if a dog goes to the bathroom on it, it'll smell, so we can't put in smelly grass. So somebody says United looks much better than Third. How could that happen? So there are a lot of questions about landscape.
Well, I've been really throughout the community, and I will say that, and I lived in Rancho Mirage for a number of years in a number of communities, and clearly our turf does not look as well as what you would see in some other communities. And so I have put a pretty big emphasis on that. Part of it is we have a lot of turf where it doesn't belong. Shady areas under heritage trees never grow good turf. And so you just got to stop it. But there are also perfectly well-lit areas that have horrible landscaping as well. And then we have a lot of intrusion by multiple species of grass. And that is it's a pretty big problem. And I know at times the boards have chosen not to invest in that sort of thing, but it seems to me that turf restoration as well as turf removal in the right places can go hand in hand to provide a cost-effective way to overall beautify the community. And so that's sort of where I want to head, and I know James and I, we've met and talked about it, and other landscape chairs to try to move forward. But I think that we can make the landscape here look a lot better, and part of it is Lori and I and board members out there taking pictures and stuff and saying, gee whiz, this isn't really what we're paying for. We don't say gee whiz usually, hate to say it.
I know.
But to provide that supervision and awareness and expectation so that staff knows what we're looking for. Also, I think we've been a little understaffed in landscaping on the management and supervision side for a long time. And part of that was putting too many things under landscape that don't belong there. And so I think we've lightened that load a little bit. And so the director of landscaping, believe it or not, can now focus on landscaping. And so I think that's going to make a big difference as well. So I'm optimistic, not more than optimistic. I am committed that you will have much better landscaping this year than we did last year.
So I guess that means that the clubhouses are going to look better too.
Yes, yes, they will. I mean, I think it goes without saying.
Yeah, for people who didn't know, the person who managed recreation also managed the clubhouses, which is a huge job. So Brad has readdressed it, so both of the areas should improve because you're not stretched as thin. This is an idea from somebody, and I know you've heard you talking about it. How about scrapping all but one handicap bus and replacing it with an Uber-type system run by some qualified resident drivers? He's making faces. This is such, I know that you say you want to improve it. Do you have any ideas that you want to share, or should I just throw this one away?
Well, I mean, it's a very topical issue. There's a lot of data out there now that I requested, and I have taken it much further down the road than the committee that's charged with doing this that has, because I'm building a budget right now, and they're going through a process, and so I had to make certain assumptions to get to a budget number. But the facts are this, that we're spending 2.8 million or so on bus service that mostly serves about 500 people. That's a lot of money. I think that's around 7,000 a pop there, if you do the math right, a little less. And so it serves more, but about 85+% of the usage is those somewhat less than 500 people. So it's a pretty expensive endeavor. Many of you are out in the community. Many of you, I know I see some folks back there who are resident employees. You see these empty buses driving around your community. You got to shake your head and wonder what the heck we're doing. I mean, I shake my head and wonder what the heck I'm doing sometimes looking at that. And so I was committed to getting the data together and getting it to the board so they could see it. And clearly, this system is not working. We've lost half of our riders in the last 7 years. Gone from about 450,000 riders to about 225. That's a lot. That's a lot. And so there's some very simple things that can be done, and I don't want to presume what the committee and GRF might do with this, but clearly you're running an 8-route system on the weekends that works just as well as the 11-route one or 12 route that runs during the weekday and runs on the hour. So that's something they could consider. That would be a huge reduction, probably on the order of $400,000 or $500,000 a year. For the long haul, also we run routes at 3 and 4 in the afternoon, and the whole route doesn't do more than 2 or 3 people. And so, I mean, I'll take myself for that cost if somebody will write me a check. I mean, but so.
What, for $1 million?
So I think you could maybe change that from a fixed route sort of setup to more of a demand response. If somebody needs to be picked up from the doctor or something, or 4 or 5, I'll just send somebody out to pick them up rather than drive the bus on a route. So those are the kinds of things that I think are easy to do. We also use very large vehicles for demand response. That's one rider. I mean, taking a bus that holds 23 or 4 people to pick up one person seems like a foolery. And so I think we can look at some more efficient, easier to maintain vehicles that would take a lot of that, those smaller groupings of folks or even individuals to specific destinations. Nothing breaks my heart more when I have a very elderly, fragile employee in my office telling me, I rode the bus for an hour and a half to come here and see you, and I know it's going to be an hour and a half back, and then I'm giving them the boot in 15 minutes. That's not right. It shouldn't take an hour and a half to go someplace that I could walk in 10 minutes. So all that has to be addressed and fixed, and I'm pretty sure that it will be. I mean, ultimately, it's not my decision, but I will be recommending some pretty dramatic changes that are going to be better for everyone. and folks who are footing the bill, the folks who are getting the rides, and staff who have to manage it. It will be better for everyone.
When will the residents be able to input their guest names in our computer system and not have to call the gate?
You know, that could happen a lot quicker. As I said earlier,
I said when.
you know, again, our technology platform has been, I mean, it's one of those investments, and you all have home computers. How many of you are working on a Windows platform that's not the very latest version? Yeah, well, we do that stuff too, to not spend money. And so, but when you do it 4 or 5 versions, and it's not only your Windows, it's your Exchange, it's your on-base, it's everything, and you're using really old servers that aren't optimized for today's environment, everything slows down really, really bad. And so that's basically what's happened. So what we're in the process right now, because this new gate access system has to plug in to the network that we have, because the most valuable asset we have is the resident database. Your personal information and your manner and all that is the most valuable thing we have, and everything we hook into the system has to be able to access that. And right now, if we hooked one more thing onto that, I think the whole thing would crash, and we wouldn't be able to collect your assessments for 6 months or so. It would be horrible, horrible. So we're in the process of updating that. We think, unless there's a big glitch, that probably, you know, September-ish, that we can probably go live with that. Now, we're going to run parallel probably for a while just to make sure everything's kind of chugging along. But I'm hoping that we can do that. Again, it's predicated on getting our network fixed, updating all the software, updating the hardware, plugging this new system in. A similar system has to be plugged in for our energy management system for all the buildings, but I can't plug that in either. It'll just crash it. So we got a number of things that are ready to be plugged in and upgraded, but we have to fix the work. So I'm thinking September.
Okay. Occasionally, there's gossip in this community.
See, so
And there's very often gossip as it relates to the employees. So we're hearing things about firing receptionists and getting rid of our residents. We're hearing things about the people at the gates not wanting to work late at night. So, and I know that you care very much about the employees, so could you give us any gossip squelching information?
yeah, I probably could. I would start by saying that, you know, my job as a leader is to inspire and motivate these employees. That's really, if I'm doing a good job, that's what I'm doing. And to do that, we have to create an environment where folks are receptive to that kind of message. And customer service necessitates that. Disgruntled, unhappy, worried employees don't provide very good customer service. I think you've seen that over the last 2 years. You've experienced that firsthand. I don't need to tell you that. And now you're seeing that change a little bit, that folks are feeling more comfortable about the future. They like the technology-driven, high-touch, say yes. People want to say yes. They don't want to say no. We train them to say no. They'll say yes naturally. And so I've spent a lot of effort on that. That said, there are those who won't adapt to that new high-touch, high customer service approach, or who, and I don't want to, it's not my job to kick PCM around, but they weren't really big in the accountability part of the job. And so people are being held accountable now. We've had a number of people who have been asked to leave or have voluntarily resigned because they knew they didn't fit in, and I think that's a good thing. It's good when people realize that their own personal beliefs don't mesh with the culture that's being implemented here, or anywhere for that matter. And so we've had some of that happen. We've also changed dramatically our customer service approach with respect to the front desk, what we're now calling the concierge service, and resident services. Instead of having individual, you've probably seen this before. You have on the right is manor alterations, then you have property services, and then you have access. Well, the people over the access may be sitting there like this with nothing to do, and there might be 5 people in line at the manor alterations window. Isn't that fun? Or even worse, there might be a big line there, and everybody's on the phone. So we've taken all the phones and moved them out back, so you don't have to see that. Oh, we're still making you wait. You're just not seeing the people on the phone. So makes us all feel better. And then I got to send this email out to everybody that I got from Chuck. It's priceless. But anyway, we set up a training program so that all the folks who work back there can do all of that stuff. They can do access, they can do leasing, they can do manor alterations. Now, like I said earlier, they're all experts. But part of that is at the concierge desk as well. And so we kind of start people at the concierge desk, and they will work there for 4, 5, 6 months and just kind of learn the what forms people get and all that. And then they will be transferred back into the desk there to start learning more detail. And so we thought we're making a pretty big investment in these folks and training and all that, that is better for a full-time permanent employee rather than a resident employee. And so we transferred some of the resident employees to other jobs or offered them other jobs. I don't know if they took them or not. So you might see some of that. But also, there has been a real reluctance here to hold resident employees accountable. Because they're not only our employees, they're kind of our bosses too. And so it has been, and I've kind of put a stop to that. You know, it's, hey, if a resident employee is doing something that's in violation of VMS rules, we have to treat them the same as everybody else. And so there's been a number of them who have been dismissed. And, you know, we've had folks who are quite inebriated working at a post here. And so we have held them accountable just like we would anywhere. So I'll always be fair and honest and direct with everyone. You'll always hear exactly what I think, and then I will do what I'm told by these boards. That's how this program works, you know. And they have been gracious enough and willing to listen to everything I've had to say. And I really appreciate that, because I have worked in places where they don't want to hear that. Just do, you know, don't stop.
You've told us that we should let you know when something is wrong. How? And how do we let you know when something is right?
Well, I think probably, at least for now, the best way to do that is through our various websites. And there's a general manager website, there's a property services, a resident services. That's the easiest way. You can always call or send an email as well. Always welcome. But through our I think it's called general dot manager? I don't know, Lori's not here. There's a general manager website, or you can send to my website and we will respond and take care of those issues. If you want a really good, fast response, just send it to Lawyer and it gets taken care of right away.
We're in the midst of putting our information together for our next newsletter, and we were going to put in there about how to email resident services. You know, instead,
yes.
If you didn't want to call them on the phone. So maybe we should list all of these numbers in the newsletter, because over 5,000 people get the newsletter, and so that they'll know what to do.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. What is going to happen is in a couple of months, and I don't know if it's 2 months or 6 months, you're going to have a new website that is going to have a resident portal that you can log on to, and it will have ways for you to conduct any kind of business with us in a number of different ways, whether you want to send an email or you want to do something else. It will all be on there for you to access. But I think electronically is the way to get the best response.
And if somebody does a great job, what do you want us to do? The same thing?
Same thing. Just send it to Lori and I, or to the general manager mailbox, and when the portal comes on, there'll be a spot for you to praise or complain.
But I'm already behind. I don't even get your newsletter. newsletter? How do I?
You know what, I was gonna say that at our last meeting, we had a sign-up sheet, and Wei Ming will put a sheet at the table on the outside, so if you wanna sign up for our newsletter, I'll just take it to the office tomorrow and they input it right away, so we'll do that on the way out, okay? This is a question that comes up a lot. Our employees say that the residents ask them for special things. And on the board level, we can't even, we can't quite figure out what, how do you respond to the resident? How should the employee, because you don't want to seem rude, but if they're doing special things, then they're not doing their job. Oh, just come over here and help me. And we've all heard this. So you have any bright ideas for that?
Well, it kind of fits into a category of odd business practices that I've put it into. And there's a number of them. For example, the employee who runs the stables gets a free stable. I don't know why, had it for years. But he's leaving, he's retiring, he's a great guy. And we got a wonderful employee coming behind him, but that's not something that would be an acceptable business practice. We have a practice here where employees could fill out a form to accept gifts from residents and remove them for the village. Well, I don't allow residents or employees to accept gifts from residents. So we've discontinued that practice. And I've taken a lot of heat over that. But you know what? Fox Sports News sends me Angel tickets and Laker tickets and all kinds of tickets every week. And you know what? I don't take those either. Because that's not part of my job here. And so, send them back. We give them to our favorite board members. You haven't done any?
No.
So we sent them back. And so there was also a moonlighting policy. And this really goes to a lot of what you're saying, where residents would contract with our employees to do work on the weekends. And it really caused a number of problems. One being, if they weren't satisfied with the work, they would come and want me to make it right. And then the other part of that is their next door neighbors complained that those folks got extra services during the normal business hours because they were paying for extra on the weekend. And so there was a lot of that going on, and so I have basically put a stop, and with the support of the VMS board, to all of that sort of stuff that would not be a normal, acceptable business practice now. I can understand why they allowed that 40 or 50 years ago. This place was out in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't find a contractor or a handyman, and you really were in the sticks. We're in a large urban area now where you can pretty much get whatever you want within a few minutes here. And so I think some of those business practices that may be okay years ago are not okay. And quite frankly, when I worked for the county in 1992, it was okay for me to take Laker tickets and have a good time. But in 2015 or 16, if I took Laker tickets and had a good time, I'd be getting a big fine. So things change over time. And being above board and transparent and honest and direct with every resident, treating every resident the same is of paramount importance, and that's why some of those practices have been discontinued.
So if somebody says to the person, can you come and do this, whatever, help me move my boxes, the employee is supposed to say no?
I mean, if they are there and it's a minor thing, I have told them it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, but for example, if they're there fixing a disposal and the resident says, and this electric outlet plug keeps coming off, and they've got a screwdriver and they're capable of fixing that, they should just fix it. Don't tell the resident, you send in another ticket on that.
Which they did.
So I've told them to stop that. What, I got to send you out again? You're already there. Fix it. So we'll get the ticket later. The problem is, and it's just the business model of homeowners association management is more optimized for counting and collecting data. It's not optimized for customer service. And so I would like to change that and count maybe just a little bit less and provide a lot more customer service. And so it just needs to be optimized in a different fashion. And so some will like that and some won't.
I think I could ask one more question. Once you get everything in the village fixed to the way you want, envision it, which is probably like September,
Some things take longer than others.
what else do what other things do you see doing for us to make this a better place for the residents and for the employees?
Wait.
And the board members?
Is that in
Oh,
writing?
what?
Is that in writing?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
right here.
Just check it out.
Well, I think initially they can envision a safer and more secure environment. I think of a number of things going on, not the least of which is the gate access project. We have a lot of security cameras and other things we're deploying that we won't make too public, but we're out there protecting you, so you'll feel that. I think that your interactions with the boards and with VMSI will be much more transparent and easier because of all the technology pieces that we're putting in place. It's going to be so much easier to do business with us. All that stress is going to be taken out. I think there'll be much better transit because there'll be more demand response in smaller vehicles that are much more like an Uber or Lyft or something that can take you here and there very efficiently without wasting a lot of money. I think your roads and landscaping is going to be in much better shape. And I think, and this is a certainty, because I have a big focus, and so do you. I think your clubhouses are going to look and function much better than what you're accustomed to. I think in the short term, it might be a little bit shocking because they're going to look so much better. Not only because of the janitorial deployments will be different, the maintenance efforts will be more sustained and efficient, and then the programming will be more directed. We have very kind of haphazard programming for our recreational facilities. Kind of things happen because they happen, not because somebody has a grand plan for what would be wonderful for this community. It just kind of happens, And some of the things are really great, with a lot of emeritus stuff, and you have a lot of clubs. But if you think about what are really awesome recreational activities that are sort of staff directed that you would love to participate in every month, you would have a hard time coming up with a very long list. And I think that that's a shame. Look at the facilities we're in there. The maintenance has been deferred to a great degree. You know that. You go to the restrooms and things, you can tell what's been maintained and what hasn't. That's going to change. We're going to have a sustained effort. Deferred maintenance is much more expensive than maintenance. I think that's been proven many times. There's every study you can imagine there. It just take care of the stuff. It's much easier. And when we take care of it and make it nicer, augment the programming a bit, I think overall the experience would be much better. So I'm very optimistic about the future of this community. I am so optimistic that I asked them to change the rules, allow me to buy a manor or two when I was hired here. That's how optimistic I am. I'm ready to go. Of course, they said no. So here I drive from Riverside, but I am very optimistic. I'm bullish on this community. And then the last piece, that's one more piece into that, because I think it's so important, is the level of transparency that you're going to experience. We're going to make everything we have available. Aside from ongoing litigation and personnel stuff, I can't tell you what employee got in trouble for doing some horrible thing. But everything else should be available to you. Contracts, financials, all that. And then communicated to you in many different venues, whether it be online, whether it be through a greatly improved TV6, which, do people watch that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. To me, it's a little stale. Who thinks it's stale?
We still watch it.
Yeah, I know as well, A lot of people still have their analog TV too, but it doesn't mean it's right. And so upgrading that, making it more dynamic, more robust, I think is a very easy do. Actually, I've done this a couple times before, and so I'm very excited about the opportunity to bring you a more originated programming from here in a venue that you would, I think, enjoy in your own home and really in high definition. I think that's the key. And I think, too, with the deployment of more of these cameras for events and meetings, there's no reason, and the boards have to obviously make these decisions, why more of these meetings and activities that are important couldn't be televised as well. You look at things like the mobility meeting today, or the CAC is another big one. Yeah, all the MNC meetings, we're talking about whether we're going to put a roof on your manor or take a tree out in front of your house. I mean, those are probably things you would find useful to know. And so I think that will be the hallmark really of what we're doing right now, is if we can get everyone all the information they want, mostly all the time, and not have people come forward saying, I didn't know, you didn't tell me, we were unaware, you snuck it through the back door. I can tell you, and with complete honesty, there are no secrets. You can't keep us in this community a secret. You can't do it. So it's better not to try. Just put it all out there and let the chips fall where they may. And whatever kind of heat you take it and you get over it. But you're not going to be able to hide or sneak anything. It's not going to happen. There's too many smart people with lots of time on their hands. You can't do it. So why try? So I'm very, very, very big on the transparency piece. The only thing I'm sad about is just because our technology platform is so limited right now, I can't get it out sooner. Because there's so much rebuilding that Chuck and the boards have to do before we can push that out to you. But it won't take long.